We are back for season 3. What is up, you boys? What's going on, lads?
Oh, good here, mate. You're still doing that live, are you? I thought we might have clipped that up and had it playing automatically, but you're still doing it live.
This is a low-budget operation.
I thought these big superstars didn't do it live when they got to a certain level of fame.
Mate, I'm a man of the people. That's basically what happens here. I'm a man of the people. I've been very busy. I haven't actually watched a ton of the PGA. I know we're going to cover that today. Disappointed is what I'm going to say. I mean, what are you meant to do? Daryl, you take the rest of the field, Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy. Imagine if that bet had gone on. I mean, it's like, what you meant? We can talk about data, we can talk about predictions, we can say whatever you want, but it's like, the man's a machine, and it's like, I'm here for it. It's brilliant. I respect it. But it's a bit like,
I just want to confirm, though, didn't we have a $10 bet on Rory McIlroy Scheffler versus the field? I think I've won again. I keep taking money off you, Trottie.
If you remember rightly, you didn't have the minerals to take the bet, actually, Bell Whip. So that which makes this unbelievable.
I think I took a $10 bet, no?
No, you didn't. You didn't have the minerals to take it.
$10 I would have taken it. I wish I did say $100 though.
Well, everyone wishes they'd have taken a bet after they'd have taken it. I mean, what sort of start to a podcast is this, Muppet?
Well, I'm just saying that would have been even richer from you. I tell you, I'm gonna start calling you ATM rather than Trottie.
Call me whatever you need to move on.
Lots of
I do, Chris. You enjoy the PGA?
Yeah.
Well, do you know what? Actually, I have been better, but I'm all right.
What do you mean you've been better?
Do you know what I've done today? I changed my car over. I've had it like 3 weeks, and I've crashed it today.
No, have you?
Like, just one of those annoying ones. Where in a car park, I was reversing out. Someone opposite was also reversing out. Bang. So,
man.
One of those, like, probably going at 4 miles an hour, and it looks like it's done enough damage that I was going at 8 miles an hour. So it's just annoying, isn't it? So anyway.
So if you're both backing out, whose fault is that then?
Well, this is the thing. So I've basically, I was pulling into a space. So I pulled in and then didn't quite, well, you know, when you're pulling in forwards, didn't quite get it lined up. So I went in like 50% of the space, then backed up to try and straighten it up. She was coming back out. So talking to a few people, I think it is 50-50. Apparently in car parks, it's everybody's basically got responsibility to look out for other cars, and there isn't a right or wrong. So I think I'll give her a call later, and I think it's either a case of go 50-50 or we'll just do it ourselves and go through our own sort of ways. But it's just annoying, isn't it? I'm sure we've all done it, but it's annoying.
I mean, I drive as good as Lewis Hamilton. I've actually had a crash in a car park.
Yeah.
Reversed into some clown who basically decided, to be fair, I think she was on her phone and she had a kid in the car, and I was reversing back. It was when I had the truck and she just caught the back end of it. And, I got out, new to America, saw the kid, and instantly was like, basically, is your kid okay? And she's like, yeah. I mean, we weren't moving very quick. And I think in the end, there was no insurance involved in that. She's just like, oh, you fix yours. But she was quick to say it because she knew full well she was on the phone. And it's like, I half saw her on the phone, but I'm like, it's not good. There's a kid in the car, and just let this slide. And
well, do you know what? It did go through my head, actually. This is terrible. But I was like, there's got to be CCTV in this car park. And there was. And I'm like, I've got an editing team. I can get that footage. I can put a phone in her hand. Post edit. I'm like, we can swindle this, but I'm too honest for that. Anyway, PGA, Daryl, give me a headline overall. What do you think? I mean, like, we come in after the Masters, which I've already said is my favourite major. So, how was it for you?
Yeah, I think it was okay. I think it was good. I mean, I enjoyed watching yesterday. I watched all of the golf yesterday, pretty much from when Scotty teed off. And I guess, talking on car crashes, it'd be quite interesting to say or talk about, McIlroy's performance during the week as well. Like, is that I kind of feel for the guy in terms of he's on this euphoric high where he's done so well at the Masters and then didn't do so great in this particular tournament. But when we say didn't do so great, still made the cut, still did, okay, all things considered. But I mean, Scotty Scheffler, what a show he put on yesterday. And I thought when Jon Rahm got close, it started to get really exciting for me. But obviously, unfortunately, that challenge faded. And lo and behold, the world number one just puts his foot down and dominates. I did, though, have a little look at the world rankings today. Now, we all know that the world rankings is a little bit obsolete anyway. However, I was just trying to reflect on how far ahead Scotty Scheffler is as a golfer compared to the rest of the field right now. And he's got more than double the amount of points than Xander Schauffele, who is in third place. It's just what a player that guy is turning out to be. And I'm quite keen to see how he's going to progress over the next few months. But, I mean, the guy seems unstoppable right now, doesn't he? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, going to McIlroy, I think if you remember last week's podcast, I didn't fancy him just for the reasons you've said. He had this massive high winning the Masters, and I just felt like it's difficult to pick yourself back up from that. And that wasn't a guess. I've got experience. I remember in 1999, I think I won the June midweek Stableford, and it's hard, man. Like, you win these tournaments, it's hard the next few events to get yourself back in the same place. So I kind of feel for him. But I just think that you look at the leaderboard and you look at how Scotty kind of progressed up the leaderboard. I think these 4-round tournaments, obviously PGA's all 4-round tournaments, he just comes out on top. He does. And it's a little bit like the FedEx. The FedEx Cup is the year-long event. The best player always ends up on the top. And with the major, he just looks, and I said this last week, he looks like the closest I've seen to Tiger in terms of the way he plays. He doesn't panic. He just basically plays his rounds, and he just hedges his bets that after 4 rounds, I'll probably come out on top because I'm the best golfer, and he just does so often.
Do you think that there's an element of, this is going to sound quite harsh, I suppose, in a way, but there's an element of luck in his round yesterday because he didn't play particularly great from tee to green on the front 9, but managed to bang in some pretty solid putts from length. How skillful are we underrating his level of putting, or is that a little bit of luck on the day where a few rolled in more than maybe should have gone in?
Well, I'm sure Trottie's got his opinions on this. It'd be interesting to see what he's got to say. But I did actually just look at that because I watched a little bit of it yesterday, and he struggled. Like, he did struggle. And over the week, he was strokes gained off the tee 8th, but yesterday he was 50th. And approaches into the green for the week, he was 8th, but yesterday he was 38th. So he really did struggle yesterday. But around the greens, yesterday he was 10th, and putting he was quite similar. So long game, he definitely had a poor day for him. But this is, like, as a spectator, and I don't know whether this is just the way I see the golfer, but I was never nervous for him. I just always felt he'd get it done because he just seems to play that way. And he started kind of on the ropes and hit a few left, but he just scrambles so well. Like, he was 10th strokes gained scrambling. So he just gets it up and down when he needs to. And you think he shot level par on a Sunday at a major on a tough golf course. That's a good round of golf. And you look at the people that made the cut, I'm guessing there would have been 60%, maybe even more, shooting over par. And he has a bad day and shoots level par. He's just so good.
I think the game is scrambling, right? I think that, we talk about all these areas, and as a coach, it's like off the tee, approach play, around the greens, putting, blah, blah, blah. The game is scoring. And I think sometimes that's lost when certainly we in our worlds get so lost in, we've got to launch the driver here. You've got to you've got to apex these irons. This is what you got to do. What backswing length is it to hit a 80-yard pitch shot? How do you play that finesse 40-yard flopper? The game's scoring. How do you score? And I think when all is said and done, he knows how to score. But if we take a lot of these things and we look at them as a whole, I think there's so much to unpack on that leaderboard. I flick it on Sunday and you've got the Live boys up there. It looks weird. It still looks weird. John Rahm cruising around in that pink logo. I can't tell you his team. I'm sat with a guy and he's like, never watched a live event in my life. I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. And he's like, it's great to see Bryson at the majors. Don't watch live events. And I'm like, yeah. And it just highlights the divide. And I think if you look at this tournament, Rory not doing any press. I mean,
yeah,
what's going on? And then this is the weakest major. I will say it. You've alluded to it, Chris, throughout. Masters takes you on this huge high. And then you have this tournament at a fantastic venue, which is extremely difficult to play golf. Scotty's done what he's done. Tough finish. Yeah, I get it. He's not got control of his golf ball, but man, he's got it done at a tough spot. Falls apart when he walks off. Obviously, his son in his arms. That's a special moment. But we're running USGA testing on drivers at a tournament that desperately needs the showdown of Rory and Scotty. If the driver's illegal, which it was on the early part of the week, so now you got to put a backup in. It's a huge chink in a player's arm at that level. Okay, I'm not one saying that the rules shouldn't be tested, but why are you picking the PGA Championship to randomly test? I mean, how long until we randomly well, we had Scheffler's driver tested as well. I just don't get why we're doing that at the PGA Championship. You should be doing that either every week or earlier in the season. It's clearly, these things creep. We know they creep. The ball speed these boys are hitting at is daft. We're looking for slight, minor advantages. The drivers creep. It happens. If you hit them out the middle all the time, which I can't do, one shot to the next, so mine ain't creeping. But if you got that much speed, then we got a creeper.
Yeah. And I think I'd like to go over that really. And there's probably two parts. One, you're right, is the timing of the testing. But two is the testing process itself. Trottie, are you familiar with how that test works? And can you explain it, well, to myself and Bubs, as well as everyone else listening to this from all over the world?
Yeah, I mean, look, the process, well, I've seen it done remotely on the TaylorMade tour truck. So the tour truck, certainly TaylorMade, I'm sure every manufacturer, sends out an R&D guy, and they grab all the boys in the truck, the tour players, that is, and the clubs are brought onto the tour truck, and then they're measured with, you place it it's actually in a suitcase that travels as hand luggage. You place it in this device, this holding mechanism, and then a pin is dropped from a certain height at various points on the face, and it measures the speed off the face at those various points, and it has to fall under the USGA limit. No problem.
So then, just as a question about that before you continue, with the speed, am I right in thinking it's when the pin hits the face and then rebounds for the second hit, and it's the time it takes between the first and the second hit of the pin on the face? Is that how it works?
I think so. And I'll take your word for it if that's what you've seen, but I think so. And you're looking for, if you think about a trampoline that you jump on, and you're looking for how long that thing holds you and then throws you up again. So it's like bounce back effectively.
And I'm guessing they're not measuring this on their stopwatch on their iPhone. It's a bit more high-tech than that, is it?
A little bit more. Anyway, what happens then is like the USGA or the RNA at these majors. I've only seen it in majors, but I know it happens at tour events too. They set up a similar process. And so TaylorMade are measuring to see how much do these drivers move over a period of time for a elite tour player who hits golf shots on a range with good golf balls. If you're a college kid, I mean, NCAA's is in town this week. The college kids are quicker than the tour players. And the problem with the college kids is they hit hard golf balls. And when a golf ball gets cold, so if someone's hitting balls in the Midwest in the winter or Texas and it's cooler in the winter, you're increasing how quickly you can make this thing creep. But for tour players, generally, they're on good ranges in good weather with soft premium golf balls. But again, TaylorMade wanted to know how quick do these things move, as do every manufacturer. I'm not just speaking on behalf of a company here. Every manufacturer wants to know that. And let's generalize a little more. So then you go to a tour event, and the one I'm going to bring up is Portrush. And I think there were 18 or 17 players the year Lowry won the Open that were pulled up to be like, right, listen, lads, we're going to test these randomly, apparently. I think Adam Scott was first up, his passed, and it goes down the list, and they create like a R&D area. They go through this thing, and obviously Xander's that week failed. So now you've got a player who is young, amazing in Xander, not won a major at this point in time, hitting it great, going out, and he spent like a day and a half trying to find a new driver. And again, it's not like you just go into your Golf Galaxy store and pick up one off the shelf, hit it a few times in the bay, and off you go. It's not like that. There's a level of trust these players have got to have. Obviously, they know the launch and spin numbers and the apex and the descent angles like nothing else. It's got to hit what they want, tested in their area on their launch monitor with their range before you're at a tournament. It's really hard to get clubs in play. Trust me, I haven't done it for 20 years. It's not easy. So then to get it done at a major makes it extremely difficult. Now, look, can it be done? Yes. Do you have to be elite as a club fitter? Absolutely. And I think I've talked about it loosely on this podcast. Bell Reeve, before Brooks Koepka won on the Wednesday morning, I was the last rep there before leaving. His driver cracked. You get it in, nothing hits the media. That was a crack. And he took it well. No one hits the media with it. He goes out, wins the tournament. It's not talked about today. And that was measuring the shell weight, finding the location of the CG, matching the clubs. But there's a low drama guy. Scotty Scheffler, we just hear about this I just heard about it on Sunday. But obviously Rory, it comes in, and then I think he doesn't, I've said it before, I don't think he wants to be a spokesperson for the process. I don't think he wants to be a spokesperson for the legality of golf clubs. But what I do think he should have gone up and spoke about in the media, and there's obviously a lot to unpack in this last 45 seconds, 50 seconds of talking, but what we do need to unpack, why have you now added to the drama? You've won all 4 majors. Get that out the way, and then you can focus on the next one. That's what disappoints me about this as a fan. Do it. Just get it done and go play golf.
Can I ask you, I guess both of you, because you've both been around this, but what interested me was I saw an interview with Scotty, and they asked him about his driver, and he said, yeah, it failed, and he had to put a new one in. And then they kind of probed a little bit more, and he kind of said something like, he said, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I've used it for over a year, had a lot of golf shots. And he said, similar to you, Trottie, he said that, they move. So I know that you're not on the tour anymore, either of you, but if he was saying that, is there someone, and I'm asking the question here, is there someone on that TaylorMade tour staff pulling him over the last 3 to 4 months saying, Scotty, we need to actually work on a backup? Or is it literally a case of wait till it fails and then try and get him one? Is there like contingency in place?
So look, I'm out on the tour a little bit to start off with. It's not a ton. You're right. In terms of contingency and in terms of backups, mate, these guys have got backups on backups on backups. Now, it's a sticky one because obviously the backups are old model drivers, and the whole purpose of working on the tour, you're there to get the new product in play. So that's a tricky scenario. But week of a major is not the time to be throwing in a new model if you've been using a previous model by any company. Now, the thing is, on tour, history would show, and when I first got out on tour, these players are very slow to change. So back when we had 150 guys all over the world, the simple way you get guys in new product is you discontinue the old product. It just is what it is. But launch monitors came out, fitters got better, engineers got more educated on this, but now players have got better. And, I was just looking at the PGA Championship. They're playing for 19 million. So if you're playing for 19 million and you're selfish about what you want to achieve in the game of golf, ask yourself the question, playing devil's advocate, are you really going to put a new model driver in if yours breaks? Or are you going to reach for your backup that clearly, looking at Scotty, you can trust? It's a bloody good backup. Now, where the reps have struggled is they've made a great backup in the former model. You got to make a backup that's fantastic in the new one. That's the truth of it. And that is all part of the job. And it's a great question you ask. And I think so few people understand the role on tour trucks. I think people see it and they think, oh, those guys travel around and they build golf clubs. And no, there's so much. And I think that the easiest way I've explained this with success in the past is think about a race car driver who races 1 week in, where was the motor racing this week? Italy. Right? So you're racing in Italy this week. And then you move, which is an old school track, and then you move to wherever the next race will be. There's loads of races now in the Middle East. Different temperature, different altitude, different demands on the car, different demands on the gear ratio changes as to when you move from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. Different tire pressures will be needed. Hard versus soft tires. I'm not a racing, like die hard, know everything as much as I know about golf on it. But that car needs to be set up perfectly for the driver's style, for the car's performance, for Italy versus wherever they go next. And that, at this level, which I know is so hard for listeners to understand, is exactly what tour golf clubs are. So again, mate, you're playing for 19 mil. For some reason, the governing body that wants this tournament to be a huge success calls the top 2 players that the dope stroke take against the field. And we won't be the only podcast doing that. And to be fair, we act like Muppets every now and again, but we do know a little bit about golf. And I basically lay out, lads, I'll give you the field against those 2. And it's, I mean, as Daryl's saying now, to be fair, it was a no-brainer. You're playing the toughest golf course maybe in the country, and you got the field. John Rahm doesn't play on that tour. Bryson doesn't play on that tour. They're not having the same game energy every week. The rest of the players up there, with the greatest respect, what we doing? You've got Shane Lowry in uber form. You don't give him an embedded ball rule. He had 2 days left to play. He misses the cut by 1. Do we not want people to watch this tournament? I'm fuming about it to the point where I haven't deliberately not been interested in a golf tournament since the Father's Day, Dustin in the US, Dustin Johnson winning his US Open. It's like everything seemed against Dustin to win that. He goes on and win. I watched for an hour, and I remember my kids were young, and my missus was like, "Who's leading this thing?" I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. No one watching this knows what's going on, for the simple fact that the governing body that run this have done an appalling job. And I hate to say it, but I think this was the same scenario. Again, I've answered several things there in it. Hopefully we can unravel some of that.
So I think it does move on to that sort of next point for me is, okay, the testing process, great. Now it's about the timing of the testing. And I suppose the challenge that comes in play is you're right about the governing bodies of golf, but the Masters, PGA, the Open, the US Open, they are all their own organizations. They are not the PGA Tour. They are not the European Tour. They're not Live Golf. They're their own independent bodies. So I guess what is the reason for them to do a test now? Why would they not look to do something remotely a month prior to these events, or outside, or maybe do a partnership type alliance with the likes of the PGA and European Tour to make sure that these clubs' the players' products are conforming and haven't been worn to the level where they fail these tests? Like, what do you think the reason is, and why would they choose a Monday of a major to go ahead and do this testing? I mean, Trottie, that's obviously clearly aimed at you, but Bubs, I mean, as a golf coach, imagine you're there to make sure that your player is dialed in for the week, and he actually then spends 2-3 days trying to find a driver that he can hit on a fairway for the week. What are the kind of challenges we're faced with here?
Yeah, I mean, it does beg the question, why are they doing that? And I'll touch on that a little bit in a moment, but I think what I find interesting is that you guys will know that this goes on all year, on all tours. But without it being done this week at a major, the majority of golfers wouldn't really know it happens. It's definitely thrown it into the public domain, which potentially could be a good thing, because even Scotty touched on it afterwards, saying, maybe we need a new way of doing this, because I think for a tournament, they're looking at this and saying, well, we're trying to run the best tournament we can, and we're trying to make sure that everyone's falling within the guidelines. But from the outside looking in as a golf fan, it does beg the question of, why are you doing it? Why, like exactly what Trottie said, why are you taking the best 2 golfers in the world and putting them in a situation where they don't want to be in? They just want to focus on their prep and get on the course. And like you said, they've got to spend a few hours on the range. As a coach, it's tough, right? Because they're going to see potentially different numbers in terms of launch and spin and drop, and maybe even curve on the golf ball. I mean, we'll never know whether Scotty was missing fairways left because of the fact that it was a new head. But as a coach, you're thinking, well, the golf swing hasn't changed. So do I intervene and potentially tweak the mechanics to try and overcome this new driver, or do I just kind of look at the player I've got and say, well, do you know what? He's one of the best players in the world. I know if I just leave him here for a few hours, he'll probably get it there. But it's a position that no one should be in on major week. And I do agree that there should be a process where it's maybe a little bit more structured, maybe a little bit more transparent. And I think even Scotty said maybe it's something that the players should take on themselves and, test away from the course, and almost have this kind of, I don't know, when they sign into the event, they just tick a box to say, hey, look, I've tested my clubs. There needs to be a better way, put it that way.
Mate, no one should be in a goddamn prison cell who's trying to get into a golf course before they go and play a major. And that's happened in the last 18 months. It's like the show, and I'm maturing, so I'll answer this because I'm getting fired up, so I'll answer this as easy as I can. The show is about the players. That's the show.
Yeah.
They work their whole life to get on the show. They're the show. Why are we talking about this? That's how bad this is. Now, again, I'm going to reference NCAAs. I was at an event here last couple of nights. That event's about players and coaches. It says it on the way in. Players and coaches event. They've firmly written there, this event tonight is to host players and coaches. So that's not about just the players. But majors are about players. Professional golf is about players. There shouldn't be any of this politics in it. We shouldn't be talking about USGA. We shouldn't be talking about PGA. We should just be trying to help. I already said it, had the best showdown in golf. Now, there's other things that have riled me up. I mean, looking through social media yesterday, a mate of mine who's a golf coach, Derek Dominski, based out in Tucson, short game specialist, lovely fella, wouldn't say boo to a goose, meaning just really nice. Like, he's got personality, cracking golf coach, won various young coaches across certainly his region and potentially North America, and he's quite well respected on the tour, to be fair. He's got a few players, got a Van Rooyen, I think, and he's done a bit with Homer. And he's put out, now I don't know the background on this, but he's put out that his social media account has been shut down. Now, he's listed by the PGA Tour. It's not been shut down by the PGA Tour. It's been shut down by the PGA of America. How do they have the right to do that? Apparently, he used images from the US PGA, which means it's licensing and whatnot. But forget all that. If he's made an error and he's posted something from their event and they're uncomfortable with it, say it's even the third warning, as a young professional, and I heard that, he's got to be in his 30s, who has gone on, created a platform online, which is the future for his business, as the man on this podcast knows more than anything in Chris. He's got a phenomenal online social teaching platform, phenomenal. How would you feel if the governing body, the PGA UK, ran, the Ryder Cup they're involved in, you post one snippet from the Ryder Cup and then they shut that thing down? Your life work as a young professional, because let's face it, you can teach golf. I mean, look at Randy Smith, Scotty's coach, phenomenal. We're going to get to him. But I just think, like, all these things are kind of, we want to get this podcast to be a bit more positive, but they're all like suppressing the talent that's coming through. Again, I don't know the history of Derek Dominski and what's happened and why this has happened, but it certainly upset me for him because I know what it takes to build a social platform, and it's not easy. And sometimes you got to do things you don't want to do just to get clicks, and it's not easy.
And I mean, you'll know this, Trottie, that when you start to gain a bit of a following, you start to increase your reach. It does become something you think about. You do kind of recognize that this can be taken away from me at any point, rightly or wrongly. And the frustrating thing is with the platforms, I mean, obviously, Facebook own Instagram. We're getting a little bit away from golf, but you cannot speak to anybody about it. There is nobody that you can pick up the phone to and say, hey, look,
that's what he said.
I've put 10 years of my effort into a platform that you run, and now I need you to kind of just pick up the phone and speak to me. You can't do that. I mean, my wife has got a Facebook page through kind of, she did a lot of healthy eating recipes, weight loss, 100,000. She's lost hers. Just lost it.
No way.
What for? Why?
Because, it was connected. It was her page, but it was connected through her regular Facebook. So she's lost all photos of our boys when they were young, friends that she's not connected with. I mean, that was a little bit of a different scenario, that she got invited onto a podcast to talk about healthy eating. It wasn't a podcast about healthy eating. It was completely different. As soon as she logged on, they jumped in, back end, went into her Facebook, hacked it, that kind of stuff. So she got targeted. But she has been pulling her hair out, and she's like, I just want to speak to someone. Even if they can't help me, I want to speak to someone. But you go around in circles, and so we're getting away from golf here. But there's a lot of things that technology moves so fast, and golf, I guess, is in that same space. But golf seems quite slow to it's like an oil tanker turning. It's quite slow to come around to actually what's going on in the world and how we need to keep up with it.
I think the bit that surprises me the most about how all the tours operate and all these different types of events operate is that you look at the manufacturers, the TaylorMades, Titleist of the world, the Adidas, Nikes, all these brands around the world who market these athletes. They're marketing these athletes for the tours. And I think that goes largely unseen and unnoticed and totally disregarded by a lot of these organizations. And I've seen it up close and personal with my time with the European Tour and the majors, but they're very quick to want to charge these brands to have access to content at these tournaments. But actually, they fail to recognize the millions and millions that gets invested in marketing these players, arguably for free on behalf of all of those tours and events. And that's definitely a bugbear of mine from what I can see. And I've certainly voiced those opinions to some of the powers that be, obviously, again, to deaf ears. And I can really bang on about that for as long as possible, but we won't. But my point being is that when you've got a young coach like that, as Trottie says, that person, and I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, I'm assuming he's a PGA member, so PGA of America. So not even his own organization is being seen to support him in this particular occasion. Maybe that'll change over the next few days. Who knows? But I think it's an absolute liberty and a piss take that you can't be seen to be celebrating the success of players unless those tours have authorized you to do so. And I think for me, that is a diminishing return over time. That's not how the business world works. And I can tell you right now, with the business interests that I'm involved in, any PR I can get for free, we'll take it. So why would these organizations not be doing the same? That would be my business view.
It's a tough one, though, because let's bring it back to...
It's not a tough one. It's no.
Look, I agree. But let's bring it back to us three for a minute here. We start this podcast because we want to let people see our personalities a little more, know our opinions a little more. You get on the topics we've covered today, I'm certainly feel like I'm having to tippy-toe around a little bit. You know what I mean? It's like, in this day and age, you can't really say truly what you want. Now, as you guys know me personally, that's hard for me. And this is me tippy-toeing around a subject that I know a ton on, but I also know that I represent everyone who follows me, and I represent everyone I've been involved with in the golf industry and who I represent. So with that, you've got to just be careful,
There was... I go back probably, it might have been 2 years. I think I might have touched on this on a previous podcast, but I mean, how mixed is this message? The waste management. I mean, look, we're in a world now where eyeballs are everything, right? If you can pull eyeballs in on your tour, your event, your Instagram page, that's valuable, right? That moves the needle. At the waste management, I keep forgetting his name. It might have been Joel Darman, boxes a pot on 17. Takes his shirt off, goes running around the green. I don't think it was Joel Damon. It was someone else.
Well, it was Joel Darman a minute ago. I mean, fucking hell. Is it Damon or Darman?
Damon or Darman. Put the right one in. So anyway,
it's Harry Higgs.
Harry Higgs, right? Shirt off, right? PJ Tour, fine him. Okay? So, like, you're looking at that, you're going, right, I've taken my shirt off, PJ Tour, fine me. I get it, right? I'm not meant to do that. They posted that clip on all their socials. So it's like, well, hang on. You want to use that clip to get eyeballs in, to promote your tour, to promote your product, to get yourself out there to millions of people. So you used it for that, at the same time finding me. Like, that's so... You either don't want that on your tour, and you don't post it, and you keep it, or you're like, do you know what? Do it, because we love that. Surely that's... Like, he must be there going, well, what do you want? Like, you like what I did because it's a great post for you, and you're going to find me. It's just mixed messages, isn't it? It's kind of... And I find it difficult when you're in that space.
I think Harry Higgs must be hard up for cash, because I was in a bar on Saturday night and the bass player literally was Harry Higgs. I had to text Higgsy and be like, dude, are you moonlighting here?
It is funny you say that, though, Bubs, because this is a few years ago now, and I was doing a little bit of stuff with Tyrrell Hatton at the time. And I remember some of the Sky team coming up to me who were obviously broadcasting, and they had a word with me about his behavior on the golf course. And then lo and behold, he starts climbing the world rankings at quite a pace. And now all of a sudden they celebrate all that stuff online and on social media. It's kind of funny how it all works. And it's kind of funny, what's that? There's a phrase for this, but basically if it suits one person, great. But if it suits everyone, some people will raise eyebrows over that. But it's interesting for sure how everything is totally mislaid out in the public eye.
So, I mean, this is a weird topic, and I don't really know whether we're the best people to answer this, but we've sort of alluded to the fact that this is the weakest major. And I think that when you look at the other majors, Augusta has got its USP, right? It's a hand-picked field. It's the golf course almost sells itself. Then you've got the Open, the oldest. It is open, so theoretically anybody can play. You just have to pay your money and take your chances. You can get in. US Open is similar. Anyone can play it. So they've all got the USPs. The PGA struggles, I think, because it doesn't really have anything. It doesn't feel to me like it's that different to like the Players or something. So, I mean, are we okay with it? Is it just accepting that, one major is always going to be the weakest? I don't know. This will never happen. And there's obviously so much more that goes into this. But I'd like to see the PGA play on the fact that PGA Pro's playing it. I'd like to see them make more of that story, we can follow those people. And I'd like to see it on the same golf course. I don't know what that golf course is, and I know that won't happen, but I just feel it needs to do something to separate itself from a regular tour event. And I don't think it has a USP that's strong enough at the moment like the others do.
It could throw a Creators Classic on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things on that. One, I hate the fact that the PGA is in May. I wanted to go back to its original day.
Of course.
I just think
being old.
It is me being old, 44-year-old, middle-aged man here, catching a pooch now, and definitely lost all my hair. I mean, everything's against me right now, which means I think it should go back to August. But no, but I want to beat that drum. I want to bang that drum. Should go back to August.
Get over
Moving aside from that point, the commentators yesterday, whilst watching the coverage, they were talking about how global the presence is of the PGA of America. And I don't know where this is going to play. And I don't think it'll ever happen, by the way. But he raised the point saying, why can't this major, because of its global presence, be played in different countries?
Yeah.
So you imagine like a rota, a bit like the Open, like every 5 years it goes back to St. Andrews. So every 5 years it goes back to the US, like you said, Bubs, same course, whatever. But then why don't you have one at Leopard Creek in South Africa, another one at, Royal Melbourne in Australia? And actually, you think about it, it does make a lot of sense. But talking about sense, Trottie's just rubbed his fingers together, which nobody will see unless they're watching this podcast, meaning it's all to do with the monies. That's what you're saying, right, Trottie?
Exactly. It's just, I think pivoting here, I agree with you, but pivoting here because I'm actually doing back-to-back podcasts today, boys, so I have to move towards the final third of this riveting episode, which, to be fair, I'll actually comment on both of you being rather intelligent in your feedback for this subject, so well done.
It's been quite a serious podcast so far, hasn't it?
It has. I do just want to credit, obviously, Randy Smith with Scotty Scheffler and the journey there, coached him from when he was 7, and also something I saw on social media this morning, a guy I've known forever, is and he didn't toot his own horn. This was tooted by Mark Blackburn, who's another great coach, English guy. Phil Kenyon just completed the teaching Grand Slam of golf. Pretty cool, right?
I saw that. That's cool. That's very cool. What an achievement that is as a coach.
I did see actually on the coverage. I watched. I didn't watch loads of it yesterday, but it was pre-round. Scotty was on the putting green, and he's like, "What did he start? Like 3 clear?" So he's like, #1 golfer in the world. He's going for his 3rd major in 3 years. He's 3 clear. He was like 5th strokes game putting. And Phil Kenyon's on the putting green with him like an hour before his tee. So I'm thinking, what on earth do you say to this guy other than just like talk to him about what he had for breakfast or something? I mean,
it worked.
Yeah.
On a golf stroke that's like, I can't get it. But you know
exactly.
what I mean? So it's here, isn't it? I mean, to have that sort of level of success on the tour for that long is not... there's not enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Phil would obviously argue otherwise, and I'm not getting into that. But once you've got someone set up to repeat a process and repeat the green reading method, and you've dialed it in for the week, whether your aim point or whatever process you're using, and the start lines are on, I mean, beyond that, then it's literally just like you're a team principal in a Formula One team, aren't you?
Well,
It's almost like supervised practice, elite supervised practice, isn't
do you
it?
know what? I think when you get to that level of being a coach, it's having the confidence to not say anything if you don't need to.
Yeah.
You know, you take an inexperienced coach and put them on that putting green, and it might be a case of I've got to say something. You know, I've got
I had to learn
you
that.
know what I mean? And it's like the having the
hard.
confidence in your own ability to just not say anything is where these guys set themselves apart, I believe. I'd love to ask him that question.
I mean, sitting here with someone who's got verbal Tourette's, that was one of the hardest thing I ever had to learn, was just to like, sometimes nothing is better than something.
I'm not sure if you've ever actually learned that lesson, man. I think you still keep rifling through, to be honest.
He hasn't followed that through the podcast.
No, crap at that, yeah.
I've fucking done well here. I could have said all sorts on this podcast about the subjects you've had us on, and I think I've still got a livelihood ahead of me and a career ahead of me, so I've done very well.
You're all right. It does make me think, though, talking about Phil Kenyon, it'd be great to see, and maybe this is some sort of research project we should look to do, but how many other coaches have won the Grand Slam in that sense?
I don't think there's any. Is there?
I mean, I'm thinking like people like Butch Harmon's got to be in with a sniff, no?
I might be.
He must have done with Tiger Woods. I mean, coaching Tiger Woods during that period, there's got to be one.
Yeah. Who's he won the majors with? Obviously, Scotty. Do we know?
With Phil Kenyon, you're talking
Yeah.
about? Justin Rose, US Open.
Yeah.
Scotty Scheffler.
Justin Rose's US Open was pre-Phil.
Was it?
Yeah. So Scotty Scheffler is Masters and the PGA.
Yeah.
Fitzpatrick is the US Open. As you can hear, my dog is ripping through this now. So PGA, Masters, US, and then the Open Championship will be... Give me a minute.
Give you a minute. Well, I think your dog doesn't got much confidence, and that's why it's barking. It's doing all the talking when it needs to have more confidence to say nothing.
We can just
100%.
fill until Lloyd gets in the chat with you.
Yeah, let's wait.
And then pretend like we knew it.
I'm going to get there first.
Oh, competitive
Neil the
times.
dog is going to get there first.
I mean, who would it be?
Let's see. Lloyd has thrown in a little Henrik Stenson here.
Oh, hang
Do
on.
you think-
No. He won the Olympics with Rosie. I don't know.
Olympics arose. That's what I was thinking then.
But he's got the Open here as well. Give me the Open winners over the last 5 years.
Colin? Wasn't Colin Morikawa? It wasn't...
Brian Harmon.
Brian Harmon, no.
No.
Molinari?
Yes. Molinari.
Good
It's come
shout.
from Lloyd, not
That's
me.
a
Well
good
done, Lloyd.
shout.
Yeah.
Well done,
Yeah.
Lloyd.
Molinari. Well done.
Yeah.
Listen, Lloyd's part of the show too. Well done, Lloyd.
Yeah, he
Isn't it
smashed
funny
there.
how a lot of people, if you're a golf kind of geek, even if you're not a golf geek, you know the swing coaches, but the putting coaches still go under the radar a little bit, don't they?
Well, what about the fitters? I mean, I was just sitting here thinking, well, how many fitters have been involved in the Grand Slam? They don't
Gotta
even
be
get
a
a
few.
look in. Because people, and to be fair to tour players view them as getting paid by manufacturers, so whatever. But the way things are going, those manufacturers potentially won't be out on tour because the trucks will be, but they're going to be like, screw it, why would we have contracted players? We'll just go mano y mano, fitter y fitter. That's the way it'll go. Because
hang on, let me just pull that. Are you saying that going forward you could see a time where
100%,
Scotty would employ you to be his personal fitter?
100%.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
And if it's not me, it'll be someone else. You know, he will.
And there are
employ-
guys-
but there might be a fitter. There'll be a room for fitters on tour to be independent for sure.
Yeah.
It's heading that way.
There's already a bunch of players that do work with their own guys, isn't there?
Yeah, and to get there, you've got to be obviously back yourself and try and be brand agnostic. So you're going to give up a lot of income, a lot of protection. Not everyone's going to do that. If you start traveling every week and then covering the coin yourself, that's going to be... So you're going to need a home base. You're going to need a location. You're going to need it to have good golf balls, be at sea level and into the prevailing wind. I wonder where that could be, Daryl. But that's what you're going to need. And then obviously players, I think, will come to you, especially if it's near a tour event.
But surely...
Players will come to you.
Surely, if I ask you to, how deep your knowledge had to be of the tailor-made drivers and the tailor-made fairways and the tailor-made irons.
Yeah,
How
I get
can you
you.
have that depth of knowledge across 5, 6, 7 brands? Is that
Because what
normal?
you do is you do what Jason Day used to do. Jason Day would go to Palm Desert, which is a natural bowl because it goes down into the bottom of like the desert with the mountains around it. So there's no wind impact. And one day he'd have TaylorMade in, next day he'd have Titleist in, the next day he'd have whoever else he fancied in. So you literally, if you're the fitter with the same opinion every time, then what you do is you can bring people in to help you on that moment as a fitter and a player. Now, you've got to know how to handle a player, you've got to have the relationship, but you've got to have the facility and the distance. But, mate, 19 million at the PGA Championship. How much money can these companies pay these players in a contract in order for them to be like, I'm going to continue that contract? That's a good idea.
But doesn't it beg the question, like we've spoken about this before, about how there's a huge amount of overlap in terms of knowledge and skill set from an elite coach to an elite club fitter. And that's a prerequisite, right? So if you think about these golf coaches who are coaching the players, should they not be part of that equipment coach setter? So it's up to them as that sort of manager of that person's game. Is it not their responsibility?
100%, absolutely, 100%. The coach ideally needs to be in this conversation, as does your biomechanics guy if they can be, or your physio girl, as does your looper if they can be there. You want all of them in the conversation in an ideal world, which again is if you create somewhere near a tour stop where people can go near the equipment companies or far away, they've got to come to, you can get there.
Interesting.
That's the way it's going to go. And then you come in to get your checkups because this is not sustainable from these club companies. And then, completely getting on. Well, no, it's fair. It's part of it. The government throws a tariff on product parts and all of a sudden the tour budget's going to need to be hit.
Are we, how close are we to the end of this podcast? Are we getting near the end?
It sounds like you want to round up here,
Well,
Bubs. Go for it if you want.
But I feel like I am on this podcast representing the people. Representing the viewer out there who's wherever they are in the world, because you two, for about 3 or 4 weeks, have been teasing a story about why Daryl is the greatest putter in the world, and I just feel like we need it explaining because each week I sit on here thinking I need to know this story, and I'm
no, you don't. You don't need to know the story.
Is also
we got through this, Daryl.
No.
I just feel like, for the people, I don't know whether Trottie wants to take this, whether Daryl wants to take it. I feel like
no one is taking it. This is like the fishing trip. This is the fishing trip. Yeah. So
why?
It'll always be the fishing trip.
For those that don't know the fishing trip, explain the fishing trip.
It's to do with a British sitcom called Gavin and Stacey, and the uncle of Stacey has a story that happens with the brother of Stacey on a fishing trip, but nobody ever finds out the result, but it's referenced in pretty much every single episode. Much like this podcast and my ability to putt, it'll remain on the fishing trip.
We're not happy. It's not a fishing trip. It's the fishing trip with the ending. So, Daryl, the floor,
it's not happening. The floor
yours.
is shut. The floor is shut. The lights are off and the floor is shut. That's how you can have it. Thanks for listening to the podcast show. Blah, 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 blah. We're all done.
Guys, you can find us in all the usual places. It can be Spotify. Every time I almost say Shopify. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the usual places to get it, and of course YouTube. We hope you're enjoying the show. This was a much more serious episode. I want to know in the feedback below if that's what you like, what you don't like. Obviously, we're on topics that we enjoy as a group. We got some guests coming. I'm actually filming an interview with one of them right now, which is why we're closing this podcast for the day. Congratulations for all the coaches who've achieved their Grand Slam out there, and the fitters if I missed you. And boys, another cracking episode. Cheers. Till next time. Hopefully we're not put out of business by the US PGA of America, and we are here for the Dope Stroke to bring it to you. Take it easy.